So, for those who are interested, here's my little take on how I go about sorting out and building my hive container shops. We've obviously seen these done a million times before on a million different YouTube videos, but here's my version. It's ever so subtly different, but basically it's just using these containers. Now, these are great little bit kits from Games Workshop. It's nice they're back in stock because they were off for a while. But they're really useful, obviously not just for 40k, but they have a really good place in Necromunda. You know, seen people like Curious to put loads of these into actually like a hive thing in its own right. These obviously can be cut up, take these panels out and kind of, you know, make container shops. But the one thing that's never really sat right with me is that they don't actually sit right with Zone Mortalis tiles. The way that these are absolutely fine, but they're just the height and the side piece this wide fits absolutely fine. It's just the length of them. It's just not quite right between the columns and walls, and therefore if you're going to put them on a Necromunda board, if you're using the tiles anyway, it just means that they don't really sit very nicely and modular within the columns, the walls, the walkways. So came across a little solution for this one. And what it is we just cut them up. Now it just so happens that if you take out the middle section and you butt two sides together, then what you get is a 2/3 container, well just over, but you get the gist. By doing that, what happens is you will end up, when it's all built, something like this. Now with this, what will happen is by taking the length of the container out, it actually fits perfectly between 2 tiles worth of a Zone Mortalis tile. So let's just see if I can get an angle on this and you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, the actual width of it just sits nice and snug in there. Obviously doesn't help with the top down, but I'll try and get some photos or videos of it later, a bit more in situ so you can see what I'm talking about. But by cutting it 2/3, it will sit nicely between what is essentially 2 tiles width. And with the height of these, it just means that you can build columns on either side. You can put a walkway over it. You know, you can leave them, you can still stack them and use them as alternative walls. And it just has a bit more utility. And obviously when they're all painted up, you can get them looking quite nice. You can obviously have them as hab units, or you can do what I do and kind of like just have them at different shops. This is my version of a hive, guys. Shout out to Gilders Ford. And it was actually their chat that asked for this tutorial, so I thought, like I say, I'd give a little thing and just see what I do with these. But anyway, you get the gist of it. So let's just show you how I go about building it, and I'll stop waffling. Sorry. So boom, boom, boom. And somewhere there might even be a 4th piece. Here we go. So there we go, container. So what we're going to do is I'll just talk to you a bit quickly about what I'm going to do to these kits in order to cut them up to get them to fit. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's just a finer point so you can actually get a fairly decent fit with the containers, so it won't take up too much hacking. Now with these side panels, where we're going to be placing our cuts is we want to make sure that these middle struts, we've got enough in between the panels. So it's not just a case of simply just taking out this middle one. You also need to take out this strut as well. So, you know, left or right-handed, it's up to you. But what I do is, if you're making a cut there, then obviously you're keeping this bit here to the left. And then what you do is with the second one, because you've already got this support beam here, when you make the cut so you can get the other end, you want to do it on this side of it. And by doing that, then you've got this bit that will abut to that, and there you go, that's basically the side panels. And it's the same kind of thing with the tops and bottoms. Now also, another little tip, don't just go ham and make the same cuts and just kind of, you know, get a production line with it, you've also got to realize that, you know, this side is going to be reversed. So you actually want to do that side. So you've got the support beam and then that side on the other one. So again, when you've got them face round and they obviously, you know, combine that way, then it means that kind of you've got the columns and support beams where they need to be. Sorry, I'm rubbish at this, I'll get better. And it's the same with the tops and bottoms. So what you've got is, again, you've got these, and these obviously line up perfectly with these support beams. So you make a cut, and these are really easy because with the floor and ceiling bits, you've actually got this nice line here, which runs perfectly to the edge of this. You've obviously got the support beam there, so by into that fact, you want to make sure you cut this side of this one. So that way you still got these hook bits at the end, so when you glue them together, you can fix the doors to the other side, and you just get a much stronger you know, build and result at the end of it. So there we go. So that's the theory behind where I cut. Another little tip for you, and again, it depends on how you want to do it, you know, there's just a subtle variation between the floor and ceiling bits, because you've got two different types of panels here. So you can see with this one, I obviously took the two ends, and that's absolutely fine. You know, you can do that for days, and if anything, that actually kind of makes it the easiest cut, because there's less of them. However, what you may notice on some of my other ones is actually what you've got is the roof is made out of these middle bits. Now on the bottom, you've got the side ends, but what you can do, if you've got multiple containers that you're going to use for this project, you can make, again, what the cut slightly differently. So you've still got one of these support beams in the middle, and then what you do is you cut off this end and this end, or, you know, just again one of the ends, so you've got the lip. And what you can do, if you fancy it, although it's more cutting and a little bit more of a faff, you can just use this middle section from a couple of the different container kits and put them together to kind of make these. So it's just roof decoration and kind of, you know, how you want it. This is a little bit flatter. You don't quite get some wobbly model syndrome. So that's the reason why I've done most of mine like this. However, it's nice to have a bit of variety. But there we go. Like I say, it's just another small little tip. It's entirely up to you, kind of what you do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your hobby, it's your build, it's your board. Just make it look how you want it to. So anyway, enough waffling again. Let me just start cutting, and again, when I get to the end of this, I'll show you where I'm at, and then kind of, you know, just the actual build process. this cut. So anyway, this is what I was saying a bit earlier. You want to make sure that these end bits are opposite cut, and you don't just follow the same down for both sides without actually reversing them. And it will come apparent when, like I say, you end up building them, because obviously they're mirrored, and that way you've got the support beam on either side, and you won't end up with a janky looking container, or even ones with just wrong lengths. So it's not a good thing. But anyway, so we're going to build that, and that's cool. That's that cut there. So obviously my next one needs to be on this side of it. So again, we've got one support beam between both panels. Cool. So there we go. So that's all the bits generally cut up for the sides, and one of the bits, the last two bits I need to cut is just the end bits of this, so I can show you how to build it with these sections rather than using the hatches. Like I say, it's entirely up to you which way you cut it. This is less, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But if you just want them kind of like the crosshatch, which I kind of almost prefer, it's the reason why I'm a masochistic arsehole and end up doing it this way, because why not make life more tricky for myself, you know, because apparently just cutting into a container to make it fit within 2 miles, 2 Zone Mortalis tiles isn't quite sadistic, you know, masochistic enough. So yeah, fun. Okay, so that's all the bits cut. So we've got the way too many cuts for the roof panel. That's what that will be. Obviously we got some spares here. I mean, I kind of keep these. It's just sometimes maybe useful for maybe a future project somewhere along the line. Maybe I'll have enough of them just to build my own random container from the spare parts with enough of these. Not like I definitely haven't bought enough of these. But there we go. So like I say, that's all of the bits for now. So all I've got to do now is clean up all the flash on all of these, and then what I'll do is I'll then just pull the pieces together and show you. Okay, cool. So we've got one bit cut, and then I've just glued these two bits together. So I've tried to clean as much flash off as possible. This is still pretty wet at the moment. I would recommend definitely using you know, either scissor plastic glue or, you know, similar actual cement like this. The reason being is if you use super glue, it's really not forgiving when it comes to these kind of kit bashes. The fact that you get a better weld just gives you a bit of play for dry fitting. Can't recommend it more. Using super glue, I mean, to each their own, but you're really going to be doing kit bashes like this on hard mode. Unless you've got your cuts 100% right and you're great at kind of just basically getting it straight in there with very little play time, it's just not brilliant. And when you're talking about cutting big bits like this, small little details really kind of count over a bigger amount. So that way, having that extra time to get that weld and bond and kind of friction fit it in a little bit more with the plastic glue, far better than super glue. That's my 2 cents anyway. So this will fire down, so I'm just going to, as I said, kind of because I now got these 2 bits, I'm just going to, like I say, glue these 2 bits on the end so I can still attach the doors, and then I'll get the sides on. Yeah, so they've kind of filed down, done a little dry fit. There is some imperfections obviously because it's a bit of a dirty hack. It does mean that the neater you are, kind of the less of this you'll get, but because there's slight subtle differences in between where you need to cut, it gets between like this kind of wet angle, that angle, and the actual side. It is a little bit difficult, but you can get it there or thereabouts, and just a little bit more filing and it will be right, without too much. If you find you still got some gaps, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the underhive, and that's what these container shops are for, or container hubs. So the odd hole here and there isn't going to matter too much, but you can also do what I do, which is just use a bit of sprue glue, get it in there, makes it look like a welded joint. The alternative is you can get some green stuff and obviously kind of just put that a little bit. That's obviously a lot neater. This one here, pretty happy with that cut. Nice and snug fit, and by the time I use the plastic cement, get a nice weld on there, that would be nice. So one last, because apparently this isn't enough cutting, so you can, like I say, have them as container shops. See many other different YouTube videos that kind of clearly do it better. I mean, this is one of mine, just using some of the bits from the ammo crates, from the Necromunda bits, a little bit from a Sector Mechanicus railing, just like to put in, so that'll be some signage for later. Anyway, the actual point is, before you actually get into the build stage, if you're going to have any open sections such as this, this is now the opportune time to cut these out. And it's just literally, again, just hacking into it. You can use the framework as guides for these ones really nicely. And then just kind of go in from this side. If you go in from the other side, what you'll find is this is actually a wider aperture, and if you cut in, you'll end up going more into the edges and rim on this, and you're basically just going to mess it up. So cut in this side in, and again with these ones a bit easier. So I'm going to open up a few of these now that I've done the filing on that bit, and then again we'll just cut to it, and I'll just wedge these 2 together and it'll just build it all together from that point. Okay, cool. And so what I've done here is the one that wasn't cut quite so well, that was the one I used to open up the apertures. A little bit of kneading up still to do, but you get the idea. By actually just cutting out the actual panels, you just make some open bits. Now what I'm going to do with this one is going to be similar to the one I built earlier, and then I've just got some mesh. I can't remember, it's from a hobby store. I'm not sure what it's used for generally, but I'm just going to have that as kind of a metal mesh kind of thing, just to hide the inside. You can obviously, kit them out however you want. You can use some of the barricades to make kind of tables, benches. There's loads of, rummage through your bits and kits, and you can kind of generally find kind of, odds and sods, kind of like, to have the open sides have a bit more life in them, whether that's going to be a food shack, a bar, chemist, chem synth kind of place, road docks, however you want to kit them out. But for me, like I say, I've already got a few different shops. I've got a bar, I've got an ammo shop, got my hive guys, even got a couple of different habs with some open bits, and I'll show that maybe just in a showcase or something, maybe at some point later, or you'll see it in a a report or something, maybe 1 year in the future. I don't know, it's only taken God knows how long to actually just do a video on my own channel. So, you know, I wouldn't hold your breath, but either way, I'll get something sorted. Yeah, actually carry on a little bit. Sorry I didn't video this, but it's just basically, I just took the bottom bit and the two sides and actually glued them together. And the reason why I did this, and forgot to video it, is while I was waiting for the sides to glue, again, just dealing with the malleableness of plastic glue as opposed to super glue. When it starts to weld, it kind of like, you've got that kind of sweet spot where you can actually play around with it just to get the fit as close and snug as possible. And when you've got lots of little bits that are hacked up, actually using this time to just kind of, you know, make those last minute amends, kind of, you know, just tease it in there, make sure it's a good snug fit, is just the key time to do it. So the last bit I've got to do now is just literally pop on the roof, which I've got here. So like I say, that's going to be the bit unlike this one. So just going to pop on the roof. Then I'm actually going to leave it overnight because I'm going to add in some of the other bits and pieces here, and then just I'll add on the side panels for now, but not all of them, just because I just want to undercoat the inside black. But yeah, like I say, last little bit, I'll do it tomorrow because I'm running out of time for this evening. And that's the mini container shop build kind of in a nutshell, really. But yeah, last few details, but looking good.